This is a 1994 Gary Fisher Tassajara, a rigid mountain bike with a 3x7 drivetrain, mountain bike trail tires, and 26-inch wheels and cantilever brakes. In the last video, I restored this bike as close as I could to preserve the original ride feel. This is a 2024 Niner RLT9 gravel bike. It has a GRX 610 1x12 drivetrain, hydraulic disc brakes, 40mm gravel tires on 700C wheels. Both bikes are equipped with Garmin Rally power meter pedals. The cost. The Gary Fisher was free to me, but market value of the bike before restoration is close to $150 or so. I put $70 in for tubes and tires, $20 in for new brake pads, $60 for the grips and saddle, $10 for new cables and housing, putting this bike at a total estimated cost of around $310. I built up this Niner RLT9 from the frame up last year for $1,500. Although this is 5 times the cost of the Gary Fisher, it is still a screaming deal for what you get. Today, Niner sells this complete bike marked down from $2,900 to $1,900 with only an 11-speed SRAM rival build. The route. The route consists of a road ascent up to the trails from Fruitvale through Butters Canyon, half mile or so averaging 10% grade, and the other 3.5 miles a mellower 4 to 5% grade. A pretty solid climb though. It'll definitely warm up the legs. After that, there's a chunky fire road climb of 2 miles at 5% along Dunn and Graham trails before a swoopy and sometimes chunky dirt descent back to the Ridge Road along the West Ridge Trail. Next, there's a curvy road section that moderately ascends back to the dirt trails along Skyline Boulevard. I then dip back into the dirt and cross Joaquin Miller Park on the Sequoia Bayview Trail before bombing downhill back to Fruitvale on the road. The route in total is around 15 miles and 700 feet in elevation up and back down. So here's the challenge. Which one of these bikes is the better ride? Gary Fisher felt pretty slow on the road climb. I thought I would be wasting a bunch of watts trying to pedal fast uphill, but the reality is that I just wasn't able to put any power down. The triple chainring and 6-speed cassette in the rear made it hard to match my cadence smoothly, and instead I opted to stick in the smallest chainring and go up and down the 6-speed cassette as needed. The tires may have had a bit more rolling resistance than the gravel bike as well. Conversely, the gravel bike felt fast. It encouraged me to pedal hard, and I had the confidence that when I shifted, I was going to be able to match my cadence without lagging too much. The real-time gap opened up when the grade mellowed out and the road became a bit more twisty. The gravel bike gained a 3-minute edge, largely due to its snappier handling and ability to build speed through an efficient drivetrain. On the Gary Fisher, I found myself trying to bounce between the smallest and middle chainring while going up and down the rear cassette. After I dropped a chain trying to find the perfect gearing, I decided it was easier to just go slow and steady. Once I got to the dirt, the performance between the two bikes evened out. Over the rougher and steeper climbs on the trail, the bikes performed evenly. There was a lot less shifting needed, and they both handled pretty nicely. On the Gary Fisher, I spun out on a wet route, and on the gravel bike, I lost traction on a dusty rock. The off-road descent saw the Gary Fisher claw back a minute on the gravel bike, but it did so at a cost. The rigid steel fork was bone-shaking. The cantilever brakes took at least 2 fingers to pull, and even then weren't the most effective. I'd say I spent a quarter of the time descending feeling out of control. But it sure was fast, just maybe not the safest. Luckily, there weren't too many hikers around. In the beginning of the ascent, I was having a lot of fun, but by the end of it, I was happy it was over. My hands were going numb and feeling pretty fatigued from the ride quality. The gravel bike, while slower, gave me a better sense of control, and the 700C wheels rolled over the chunk easier. I was able to enjoy the out-of-control moments a bit better, knowing I could actually stop. On the connecting road section back to Joaquin Miller Park, the Gary Fisher lagged behind the gravel bike by almost a minute. No surprise here, though. Once in Joaquin Miller Park on the Bayview Trail, the Gary Fisher and the gravel bike completed the section in the same amount of time. The real headline here, though, is ride feel. Due to the lack of stopping power and fatigue on my hands and arms from the rocks and roots, I was a bit out of control. At one point, my hands slipped off the bars completely. I managed to stay upright and regain control before almost crashing at the feet of a hiker. She was not impressed. Once back on the road, I flew down the mountain back home. On paper, it looks like the Gary Fisher and the gravel bike were almost a draw. The Gary Fisher used less watts overall and was faster on the downhill dirt sections, and the gravel bike performed better on road climbs, both tied on the Mellower Bayview Trail. I won't compare final times, as this is probably due more to route creation and having more road miles than dirt. Off paper, I'm going to have to give the overwhelming victory to the gravel bike. It was just a much more enjoyable ride. The drivetrain made it easy to find the right gear for my legs to keep pushing. The brakes were easy to operate and actually stopped me when I needed them to. The most important thing, though, was the ride feel. The Gary Fisher was incredibly fatiguing to ride. I was exhausted despite all the numbers saying it was a much easier effort. So can a 90s mountain bike be a gravel bike? Absolutely. Can it be better than an actual gravel bike? No. Does it have to be, though? For 1/5 the price, I was able to get out on the road and trails and have a great time. These are still great entry-level bikes for anyone looking to start riding without spending all of their money. Just don't ride them so hard that you want to give up the sport entirely. Still not convinced? In the next video, we'll see if we can make some component changes to address the ride feel and limit the fatigue. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.